Okay, it is 6:30 and I'd like to call this regular meeting of council to order and acknowledge that the city of Winkler is situated on Treaty 1 land, home to the Anishinaabe, the Cree, the Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that have been made on these territories and dedicate ourselves to a future based on respect for all peoples, moving forward to a harmonious, prosperous future together. Before we jump into agenda, I think maybe everybody has noticed my nice new shirt. This is to congratulate and recognize the Winkler Royals, Southeastern Manitoba Hockey League champion, and Manitoba Senior A provincial champions. Thank you very much, and congratulations to the board, to the volunteers, to head coach John Mintenko, all the players, everyone else involved. Particularly three players, my nephews TJ Matuszewski, my nephew Michael Hepner, and my nephew-to-be, Colin Thomas.
Yeah, it sounds like a conflict of interest there or something.
Congratulations, Royals. Thank you very much for making us proud.
Right on. Good job.
Looked like they had a lot of fun too.
That they did.
That's awesome.
Be it resolved that the agenda for the regular council meeting of April 14th, 2026 be adopted. Mover?
Andrew?
Second.
Marvin.
Any changes to what you see?
Nope.
All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting of March 24th, 2026 be adopted. Mover?
Ryan.
Second.
Don?
Peter got you by a little bit, Don.
That's good.
Minutes are there. Any comments or questions? All in favor? Carried. That takes us very quickly to our community spotlight this evening. The Pembina Valley Humane Society will present to council about the work that they do in our community. If you would, come to the podium, please, state your name, and then the floor is yours.
Okay, so bear with me, I've never had to do this, it's kind of intimidating, so I might not look any of you in the eye.
All good. Fair enough.
So this year, my name is Jennifer Young, I'm the shelter manager. I've been a shelter manager there for about 2.5 years. When I was hired on, it was as the volunteer and foster coordinator. Since I've taken over as the shelter manager, we've seen a lot of good things. I'm not saying it's because it's me, but just there was a lot of things that I was able to see that, others couldn't, fresh eyes and all that. So the mission is to promote humane and compassionate animal care through the sheltering and adoption, education, and the community outreach. That has actually grown quite a bit, and it has come into Winkler quite a bit. We've gone to JR Walcott, we've gone to Pine Ridge. We go to quite a few of the schools to educate them on how to be with animals and dogs and how to not encourage, you don't go up to a dog and start doing, oh, you're so cute, because that can just scare them and all that. And a lot of people don't know that. So we've reached out to a lot of places that include Winkler as well. So you can go to the next one, Tony. So just a quick year in review, the activity in 2025, you'll see that the intakes from 2023 were at 160. And then they went up. That was the year that I did take over and I had a new animal care coordinator. And with the adoptions, or with the intakes going up, you can see that the adoptions also went up. So it's not like we're just taking in these animals and going, I don't know what to do with them. Now, because we do educate everybody on, what is the right fit for you, and how to introduce new animals to old animals and family members and babies, we see that everything, went up. What's nice is if you see the number of intakes for 2025, yes, it went down from the previous year, but we actually didn't get a lot of people that wanted to surrender. And that is because of the education that we are giving. So, wow, that went Zoom.
Yeah. Can see the numbers.
So with the intakes, we have costs, and we make no money off of, obviously we're a nonprofit, it costs sometimes up to $300 per animal for us to feed it, shelter it, medical. It's not just spaying and neutering. So you'll see that, you know, the revenue has gone up and down, and last year was not a great year for that. We just didn't get as many grants coming in. We didn't get as many or as much fundraising, all of that. And the cost of all of that, as everybody knows, has gone ridiculous. Our vet bills skyrocketed because we had probably about 10 dental surgeries that had to be done right at near the end of the year. And that can go anywhere from just descaling all the way to extractions. We had a couple of cats that had to get all their teeth removed. And if that isn't done, then they end up with disease and very bad health. So you'll see that, you know, you see the fluctuation, but the unfortunate thing, go ahead, Joe,
Yep.
is that our funding, you'll notice here in 2025, donations, 149, not bad. We've been able to get more. The reason that donations were that high is because we did receive 2 bequests. Is that the right word? Yes. 2 very large ones. That is not normal. So it probably would have been more, it would have been under 100,000 if we didn't receive those. Fundraising, 108, but it also cost us probably about $30,000 or $40,000 to actually do the fundraising. You know, money has to go for you to be able to make it. Adoption fees, you'll see, only 37,000. We don't charge a lot because that's not what we're doing. Our grants, you'll see only 6, almost 7% of the funding that we got last year. That's very small. Looking back at previous years, it was 10, 12, 13% of our funding. The other, I don't know what that's from, but hey, another 12,000, I don't, you know. Okay, go ahead. So you'll just see in the graph here that, you know, we have our increased activity, our total intakes had a 27% increase, and that's from 2023. I'm kind of going by that just because that is when the last time we received a grant from Winkler. And so you'll see that we're doing an increase, but our revenue is dropping quite a bit. Like in 2024, we did 348,000 in revenue, and it went down last year, or in 2025, went down to 288. And now with us seeing that decrease, that drop in revenue, we're actually having the need for more funds because of the prices, because of the number that is coming in, and all the work that goes into an adoption and goes into finding fosters, getting all the vet care. People don't, we come across that a lot of people don't realize how much work is behind the scenes in the office. We only have 3 staff members. It's a lot of work. So sometimes we need to, if we have the funds, we can bring in a behavioral trainer and help us with some of those tougher dogs. And then, yeah, with the vetting, all of that, it just really is costing so much. So you can see there that the adoptions are going up, but funds are coming down. Okay, go ahead. So you'll just see here, again, rising costs of essential services. So the vet bills jumped from 44,000 to 64,000 last year, and that's crazy. But like I said, we had a lot of dental work, that's stays, that's neuters. We had a couple of amputations, just things like that. We're not going to take in a dog or a cat and be like, oh, we can't handle it because of all the bills. That's not what we're about, right? We have a dog right now in shelter that he was brought in, a reserve dog, and he had been attacked, it looked like, by another dog, and he has a very big laceration that you can see the tendons. So, and he's too big that he cannot be, he cannot have that leg amputated. And we're like, well, yeah, we weren't planning on taking in any more dogs, we didn't have a lot of room, but he's there. And that's what we wanna continue doing. We wanna be able to take in the animals that need help, as well as the ones that, you know, need to be surrendered because circumstances have changed for the family. It's getting harder and harder to do that. So in review, some of the things that we do have the subsidized spay neuter program, and the change that we had for the last 2 years is it used to be that the customer or the owner had to pay the majority of it, but we paid $100, the vet paid a portion, and then whatever was left was to them. Now what's happening is pet owners just pay a flat fee of $50, and then the vet pays a portion, and then what's left is for us. And so some of that, you'll see last year, $4,000 was what came out of our pocket. 9 spots particularly were from Winkler, and that cost us about $900. We do have the Pet Safe program with Genesis House here in Winkler, and luckily we haven't had to participate and help somebody out with that too often, but we do it. They contact us, and we find a foster that can take in their animal for about 2 weeks so that they can kind of get their footing. And if they can't and they have to surrender, then we take them in. So we've had to do that about 5 times, probably 5 times in the last couple of years. Ringworm outbreak, again, this is just, it shut down the shelter pretty much. Cats, we could not take in any more cats, so kind of put in a freeze. So that takes away a lot of our revenue as well. But I guess at the same time you would think, okay, well, there's no vet bills for that, right? No, but there's a lot that the staff have to do to make sure that that does not stay there on a daily basis. So the 2 large bequests, which is very uncommon, we actually would have operated at a $25,000 deficit last year. Okay, go ahead. So TNR, this has been a great thing. The trap neuter release program has been amazing. The first year it was kind of all, nobody knew what they were doing, but we managed to, I think, do about 30 to 40 cats we were able to spay, neuter. We do take in the kittens that happen to come in, and we adopt them out. Last year was done way better, and that was about 23 cats. But the reason for that we do this TNR is because we're trying to, you know, pet population, we gotta make sure that we keep that down. So then to look specifically in Winkler, we've done visits, we do visits on a regular basis to Salem Home. The people there love it. Like some of the pictures, cause I haven't gone yet, it's been Brandy, but the pictures that I see, the smiles are just amazing. We get dogs that are fantastic, they just sit there and they let the people just go at them, and they love it. We did 5 Beatree safety sessions in just the Winkler schools. In Morden, of course, we've done many more. We've even gone out to Carmen and Altona. And we do even mental health visits. We just started doing that last year when they reached out to us, and they've now reached out to us again, so we're gonna do that again this year. So obviously our goals, we wanna continue the TNR, and we do have a grant for that, but it's still a very small amount that we are limited in how many cats we can trap and release. We're gonna continue with the community outreach, and we're gonna expand it a little bit as well. Things that we've done in the past in Morden were with doctors that were visiting and going through some training. They're like, we need a break. We took a couple of dogs, we walked with them, they had a great time, it was fantastic. We wanna look into doing that here in Winkler as well. So we wanna grow our donor program, we want to work more with other businesses and other programs, and we've done a lot of that probably for the last 6 months or so, we've developed a lot of great partnerships. Our special event fundraisers, that is an up and down thing. One year, you know, we get the 50-50. One year we got over $30,000 raised, and somebody got half of that. The next year was 18,000. You know, this year did really, really good again, but you just never know. So 25 animals came from the city of Winkler. So 17 of them were public surrenders and 8 were from the pound. So you know how it works. Animal control, they'll pick up an animal, or they'll be told that there's a stray walking around. They bring it to the pound. The pound tries to find the owner, and then they have to find a shelter. So they'll reach out to us, but when they know that we're really, you know, really over full, they will reach out to more. But we don't want them to, after the 5-day period, have to euthanize. So we do whatever we can to take them in. So that represents about 12% of our intakes is from the Winkler area, and Morden is second to that. So, Winkler is second to Morden. This is just a rundown of the costs of what it would be just in Winkler, and everything that is there comes to like probably about $10,000 for just that amount of animals that we've taken in that you saw in the previous slide. It's crazy. So if we could get anything from you guys to kind of help us out, we want to be able to extend the TNR program to Winkler. There isn't as much, I don't think, of a problem in Winkler, but I don't know that yet because I haven't been able to take a look around and ask people. Once the community knows that we have it, they reach out to us and say, we've got a colony of like 25 cats. So we always do the best that we can, but right now we can't leave Winkler, or can't leave Morden. So that's why we're hoping to get something to help us just kind of move forward with that. So conclusion, increased output, decreased funding. And I have been told that we are looking at, in 2026, we're looking at working on a deficit of about 30,000, 25 to 30,000. That's why I didn't get a raise this year. The inflation of care, like we said before, everybody knows everything is inflated, all of the costs, everything. Our vet in Morden is fantastic. They help us out a lot. But our vet bills are still going up to $65,000. And that's with a really nice cut. So if it were $3,000, that's what was given last time from the city of Winkler, that would cover roughly 15% of our cost increase. So anything that you guys are able to give us and help us out and just smooth things out just a little bit. We're doing everything we can in Winkler already, but we want to be able to do more. So your help would be amazing. Got to give some cuteness there, right? So yes, the dog in the bottom left, that's Jones. We named him Mr. Jones, and he's so sweet. If you guys want to come and visit him, you can. Bella, and then I don't know who the cat is, but I thought, come on, you gotta have a beautiful nose up there. So there you go. All right, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know I probably could have done better, but you guys have the information, and that's what I need.
Excellent presentation.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank
for
you.
that.
Thank you.
Council, any comments or questions?
Well, I know for myself, my daughter was a volunteer there through high school, and she got a volunteer credit for that, and so really appreciated the opportunity for her to to be able to get out with she did a lot of the cat duties and stuff.
We have
So-
a lot of students that
Yeah.
come through, and it's because they need a credit, but they can choose just about
Yeah.
anywhere, right?
Yeah.
But the volunteers, like I said, we have 3 staff members.
Mhm.
We rely on our volunteers and our donations, like we just do.
Mhm.
If we didn't have the volunteers And the students that do, they come in, get their credit, they stick around. It's,
Yeah.
I mean, you don't get, I always say to them, you don't get paid like a job in money, but you get paid in tail wags and kisses. It's so cheesy, I get it. It's so true. Like, you go and you have to clean up after them, but
Yeah.
then you get to sit and have them, like, jump all over you.
Oh, it was a very, very good experience for her.
Yeah,
And
what
so,
was her name?
Leah.
Leah,
Yeah.
might have been before my
I
time.
think it was just before your time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
You bet.
anything else?
Excellent. Thank you very much for your
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much for
Appreciate
hearing
it.
me out.
Moving back into our agenda then, you will see some correspondence there, obviously a letter from Minister Simard with some numbers in terms of increase that we're seeing with the provincial numbers. So it's a little bit nice to see, as obviously with $1.7 million in municipal operating funding from the province, a 2% increase does help out a little bit to take the edge off some of the other things. And then secondly, the Sexual Assault Awareness Month note there with regards to the clothesline project. And then the third note about the waste reduction and recycling support grant. A little bit disappointing to see that number drop year over year, but nonetheless, the work continues and it's numbers based. So there's a formula to it and we're not sending quite as much. Any comments before we move into finance?
I was wondering if that was the case or if there's a pot and more other communities are doing more than they used to, that, and then that makes our percent lower. I don't know how. If there's an endless pot in the provinces for that.
I do not know the answer to that. I would have to
I
check.
don't think our tonnage would be down
No.
for recycling.
No,
And I think previously that was the explanation though when we asked
it might have been.
for a decrease in numbers. It was that we had a slight decrease and it was based on what we send through Gateway,
It's also, there's a calculation for cardboard,
which,
which sometimes affects it.
correct.
Yeah.
Either way, it would be good though, Jody, if you don't mind, let's dig into it to find out if in fact the formula has changed or why the number would be going down in a community growing as rapidly as we are. And generally, from what I understand, fairly consistently interested in recycling.
Yeah.
Will do.
Moving into finance then, be it resolved that accounts payable in the amount of $1,655,100.10 as approved by the Finance Committee be approved for payment. Mover,
Andrew.
second.
Ryan.
You see the check register attached as always. Any questions? All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that the tax levy bylaw number 2366-26 be read a second time. Mover,
Don.
second.
Ryan.
Thoughts or comments? We've gone through the financial presentation. Thank you very much, David Martins, for leading us through that at our last meeting. Seeing no further comments, all in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the tax levy bylaw number 2366-26 be read a third and final time. Mover?
Andrew.
Peter got it, Andrew got the second. Last chance for comments. All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the attached utility arrears be added to their respective tax rolls. Mover?
Michael.
Second.
Marvin?
We see the numbers there without names, obviously, but you do see where we do have a couple of concerning larger ones. But ultimately, it is what it is, and if in fact we can't get these monies in, we do have to recoup them, and we do need to then add them to the tax roll. Any comments before I ask the question?
Nope.
All in favor? And that is carried. Moving then to water and sewer rate bylaw. Be it resolved that the water and sewer rate bylaw number 2368-26 be read a first time. Mover.
Andrew.
Marvin?
Andrew got it, Marvin got the second. You see the documentation there. Obviously, first reading puts it out there, and these numbers are a little bit different than we would normally have anticipated. Mostly, we like to keep the numbers fairly level so that it's consistent and our community knows what's coming. In this instance, it's not quite that way. David Martins, Director of Corporate Services, is here today. I don't know if he'd like to speak to that at all, maybe just to explain to us a tiny bit how the process works, if you don't mind, David.
David Martins, Director of Corporate Services. So yeah, when it comes to utility rate reviews, I mean, we just passed a tax levy bylaw, and that's, I think, more common because we do it every year, which established a tax rate. On the utility rate, any municipality has two options. If a change to utility rate is needed, you go through the full rate review, or you have the option to go through a simplified review as well. This time, the city, we went through a full rate review, and there's few reasons for it, and the biggest one is because of our two projects, the wastewater treatment facility and the water treatment plant. Last time when we did our rate review, at that time we had estimates of what these projects would cost us on the operational side, but now that these projects are almost at completion, we have more accurate numbers now, and that was incorporated in this rate as well. So now that we had first reading of this bylaw, what it does is it gives us the option now to send this bylaw to the Public Utilities Board. The Public Utilities Board, they ultimately have to approve this rate as well. Of course, council as well, but the pub as well. And what we did in this rate review, it's a 5-year rate, and it was mentioned already by Henry, it's not a very smooth increase. You see that there's a tax or a rate increase of just over 9% for 2026, almost 5% in 2027, and then it's 0.00 for the 3 years after. And so that averages out to about 2.8% over the 5 years. So you could ask the question, well, could we not have taken a 2.88 for the 5 years instead of a, let's say, a larger 9.4 in the first year, a 5 in the second year, and then a 0 in the third, fourth, and fifth year. And while we can do that on a tax rate, because at the end, council approves on a tax rate, and there's no other public body or provincial organization that has to approve it. When it comes to utility rate reviews, like I said, it has to go through the Public Utilities Board, and the Public Utilities Board, they want to see actual projects that the municipality has budgeted for the certain years. And with that in mind, it's very difficult for a municipality to actually smoothen out the rates, because you can imagine if you have I just like to use an example now, a $200,000 project in year number 1, and you have a $2 million project in year number 2. These are the projects you have, and it's almost impossible then now to break it apart, because that's the project you have. And that's also why you have a difference in rate, and that's why the first 2 years are larger increases, and then you have zeros after. But there's also another reason why the first years are larger increases and the last 2 years are at 0, and that's due to the fact that at our last rate review, our rate or change that we submitted to the Public Utilities Board did not get fully approved for the same reason. And so now we are obviously at a point where we need to catch up a little bit, and that's why you see larger increases for 2026 and 2027. So the submission is for 2026, and we know these reviews sometimes take a couple months to complete, and so we still do it for 2026, hoping maybe for fall of 2026, but this could mean that the 2026 rate will be moved to 2027 and so on. So it does not mean, because at our last review it took, I believe, around 10 months to get the rate approved. We're already in April, so we could potentially look at the end of the year or even into 2027 until this rate will be approved. And so the reason we went on a 5-year rate till 2030 is just to match the public PBWC, because they also have a approved rate till 2030, and we thought it would be good to go hand in hand with them to have our rate approved till 2030 as well. Even though we had first reading on this bylaw, it does not mean that these rates as presented are approved. Like I said, it will go through Public Utilities Board. They will have, they will advertise for it as well. They will look for input from the public, and at that point, public can give feedback. And once we hear back from the Public Utilities Board, that's when we can have second and third reading and then implement the rates after.
Thank you, David. One of the things we regularly talk about when we talk rates is we like to keep them as stable and boring as possible. Meaning that we stretch them out and we provide predictable numbers that people can prepare for. I'm disappointed that this is the system, the process that we currently have, but it is the system and there's not much we can do around that. I'm happy that all of the planning that our staff has done shows that over the course of 5 years, a 2.64 is very reasonable. When I hear of some of the concerns that are elsewhere in utility rates and what the numbers might do, it's disappointing that we have to take a 2-year hit up front, but I'm very proud of the fact that our team has managed it to the rate that allows us over a 5-year period to be at a very reasonable place. So I'm thankful for that. Certainly, as we have opportunities to speak to the province and to speak to the Public Utilities Board process and what that looks like, I think we need to make sure we advocate that this process is updated. As we have a really good asset management plan and we know what our costs are going to be 5, 10, and 20 years into the future, it would be really nice if the utility rate allowed us to prepare for what's coming. It allowed us to save money for it so that we don't have these big shocks. It's not the system we're in today, so we will deal with it. We'll move forward. We'll wait for the province's comment, or in this situation, the Public Utilities Board's comments, and then move from there. But thank you very much for the explanation, David. That was really good. Comments from council?
I just want to echo your comments on that. I'm hoping that as we are able to demonstrate to the province and to the pub that we have a good way of dealing with this, we have a good asset management plan, that would be taken into consideration. Maybe we'll miss the boat this time, but hopefully in the future at least that the decisions will reflect our hard work and our careful planning.
Agreed. Not seeing anything further? All in favor? And that is carried. Takes us into our transportation and utilities. Be it resolved that the Swamp Board minutes of the March 24th, 2026 meeting be received for information. Mover?
Peter,
Second.
Michael?
Any comments or thoughts on those minutes?
exciting news.
It is indeed.
Usually boring as ever, but we do have the financial report to the auditor sooner than normal, so we're only 2 weeks late this time instead of 3 months.
Well done.
So that's a bonus. And if you would go down to what is it, anyway, it's got to do with wood chips.
Number 3, the end of it, yeah, 1.2
Yeah, we
million.
sold 60 semi-loads of wood chips to some colonies and to some greenhouses. I think we're making a few dollars on them.
Very well
So
done.
at least it's not going into the landfill and we're getting a couple of bucks back, so. Those are the 2 exciting pieces there. Otherwise, it's just garbage.
Well done.
I'll give that there, and thank you so much to yourself and your board and the team there for getting those financials to the accountants earlier. We are obviously dependent on them, and we like to get our financials in on a timely basis. And we can't do ours until our reporting entities all provide theirs to us, so thanks for keeping the pressure on. Any other thoughts? All in favor? Carried. Takes us then to planning for bylaw number 2367-26. Be it resolved that this rezoning bylaw number 2367-26 be given first reading. Mover.
Don?
Second.
Ryan.
Any comments on that? As always, first reading starts the process.
Glad to see that piece being developed.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that road naming bylaw number 2359-25 be given first reading. Mover.
Peter?
Second.
Marvin?
We see the notes there. This is a housekeeping issue where we rename a portion of Pembina Avenue from Church Avenue West to Pembina as it should be. Comments?
Nope.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that the MSTW board minutes and reports for the March 11th, 2026 meeting be received for information. Mover.
Ryan?
Second.
Michael?
Both are attached, including the reports. I think the weather may be putting a slight damper on the start of spring there.
Yeah, we've seen that even in our last meeting here. It's really kind of obviously the weather's made it difficult to get too far into anything yet, but
It's gonna be gorgeous tomorrow.
hopefully. So I guess we'll start tomorrow.
Yeah.
The other thing, at that particular meeting, we did give third reading to our development plan, and so that's now an approved document, so,
Very well done. That's been a long process.
Ooh, yeah.
yeah.
Nicely done. Not seeing anything further, all in favor? And that is carried.
I guess I'd wait for the recess first before I excuse myself, or what?
Sure,
Okay.
I'll let you even move that. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council recess for the purpose of holding public hearings. Mover?
Andrew,
Second.
Marvin?
All in favor? Carried.
I will ask to be excused based on a perceived conflict of interest.
Okay, we'll let the minutes reflect that Deputy Mayor Fraze is stepping out of chambers. Okay, Jody, if you would help us out, please?
Sure. Our first one is a public hearing for rezoning bylaw. However, we do have some notes to council there that while we gave notification in the local newspapers for a public hearing of this date, in order to comply with provincial notification requirements, we needed to move or proposed to move the date of the public hearing to May 26. So we did communicate that with the applicant, and they understood that. But we still had to go through this process because it was advertised, and therefore our recommendation is that council adjourn this public hearing to the May 26th council meeting. That will give us enough time for the circulation and feedback to come.
Thank you, Jody. Based on that, I'll entertain a motion that be it resolved the public hearing for bylaw number 2361-25 be adjourned until May 26th, 2026. Mover.
Ryan?
Yep.
Ryan got the move, Don got the second. All in favor? That is carried. Let's go see if we can find Deputy Mayor Fraze and ask him to rejoin us. Welcome back, Andrew.
Thank you.
We'll now proceed to the combined public hearing for bylaw number 2363-26 and subdivision number 4463-25-8505 at 195 East View Drive. Jody.
Yes, as mentioned, it's a combined public hearing for rezoning and for the subdivision. The applicant here is Southern Manitoba Potato, and we don't have any objections that were filed with our office prior to this public hearing. You have before you a rather lengthy report to council on this. That doesn't mean that it's major issues. It's just, there's a lot of factors to consider in a development like this. We do have Stephanie Jantz, our planning and permitting manager, here today. So if you wish, she could walk you through a few highlights of that at your choosing.
That would be appropriate, please.
Hi there, Stephanie Jantz, Planning and Permitting Manager. So just going over the agenda here, or sorry, the report to council. Couple highlights here. It's the lands are designated employment, so the industrial zoning is appropriate. It generally complies with our secondary plan as well as the Arm and Rhinefeld secondary plan, sorry, which is adjacent to these lands. There is a traffic impact study that the city recently undertook affecting these lands, and there's some future intersection improvements identified here. Currently, the cost of that study was included in development fees, so that's more or less addressed. Moving on, in terms of road access, this development will have 2 road access, one to Eastview and one to Pembina Avenue East. It'll include 3 new local roads. One key note here is that initially we had planned in our secondary plan for Icon Drive to extend south to connect to Pembina, and CP has indicated to us that that's not a viable option. They won't approve it, and so for that reason, that's why the roads are oriented the way they are. However, they do generally still comply with our secondary plan. In terms of stormwater and servicing, city approval of those engineered plans are needed, as with any subdivision. We do need easements, however, from neighboring landowners for the subdivision to be feasible. So you'll note that there's a figure there identifying a 40-foot wide easement needed along the easterly boundary of the adjacent parcel to the north. And that needs to cross beneath the tracks as well. Otherwise, I don't know if there's a large gas transmission project that Manitoba Hydro is undertaking. That does solicit the need for easements as well. There's been in-person discussions and meetings. We looked at alternatives, and I believe Manitoba Hydro is accepting of an alternative design, although they want to engage with landowners before they announce what that could look like.
Okay.
We already have a memorandum of understanding with the proponent here with regards to the walkway. So you'll notice that the subdivision area actually includes a 10-foot portion along Eastview Drive that will be dedicated as part of Eastview, sort of satisfying the terms of that memorandum of understanding. That pretty much covers the main items there. We are recommending approval, subject to rezoning, a development agreement, drainage and water servicing agreements, easements with the adjacent landowner or other alternative options if they can be determined, and city approval of the final engineered plans.
Excellent. Thank you, Stephanie. Any comments or questions of Stephanie before we give the proponent an opportunity? I will ask then if the proponents have any comments that they would like to add.
Only if there's questions.
Fair enough. The proponent, Keith Cool, is in chambers and suggested that if there were questions, you'd be prepared to answer. Is there anybody here in opposition to this today? I'll then give council an opportunity to ask any questions they might have.
Do not have any.
I think in this instance, the fact that the proponent and our staff have worked together very well to address the vast majority of what needs to be addressed in a new subdivision, that's very good to see. If we don't have further questions, I'll close this hearing and we'll start asking the questions about approval. Okay. Be it resolved that the combined public hearing for bylaw number 2363-26 and subdivision application number 4463-25-8505 be closed. Mover.
Here.
Second.
Michael?
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that subdivision application number 4463-25-8505 be approved. Mover.
Don?
Second.
Ryan?
Comments, questions? All in favor? That is carried. Be it resolved that rezoning bylaw number 2363-26 be given third reading. Am I a tiny bit ahead of myself here? It should be second reading, yes. They were flipped. I've got them now.
Okay.
That was my dragging mistake earlier. My apologies.
That's what happens when we try to be too fast. Be given second reading. Mover?
Marvin.
Second.
Michael.
All in favor? Carried. Be it resolved that rezoning for subdivision number 4463-25-8505 be given third and final reading. Moving.
Ryan?
Peter?
Final questions?
Nope.
All in favor? And that is carried. Be it resolved that public hearings be adjourned and regular council reconvene. Mover?
Michael.
Second.
Peter?
Peter, all in favor? Carried. That takes us through the rest of our agenda to questions from media or public relevant to this meeting of council. Not seeing any. Be it resolved that this regular meeting of council be adjourned. Mover.
Ryan?
Second. Marvin. All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much for your continued investment into our community and the industrial lot